Ballymount Road, Dublin 22. Oh, there we are. There's my voice fading out and me fading back in again. Good morning, welcome. Apologies for the late arrival of this flight. What did the pilots say? We were grounded due to air traffic control, or whatever other analogy you want to use. Flat tire. Or do you know the way the passenger turns up late? Did you know this? Maybe you've had that experience. If somebody turns up late for the gate of the flight and they're booked in and their luggage is on the plane, well, they don't get on the plane, but they take 20 minutes searching through the luggage compartment to get their bag off, and you're stuck there on the runway. Sure, here. Anyways, apologies for the late arrival here for our Chatechesis this morning. Always things to be attended to here and issues to be resolved and things to be planned and organised. Never enough hours in the day here on Radio Maria. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for bearing with us. Shout out to everybody on Facebook and YouTube as well. It's nice to have your company visually as well. And do feel free to drop a little comment or as you wish. Thumbs up and all these things, and share and follow and like and subscribe, etc., etc., etc. So thank you for being with us today. Good. We're heading to Cavan, please God, tomorrow for the Vigil Mass in the evening and Masses in the morning as well. The parish of Corlock Templeport. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Often find I go to new parishes and you're announcing the station areas or the town lands, and the first couple of times making a complete hames of the pronunciations that the locals wouldn't have any idea where you're talking about. And it's their own place. Corlock Templeport. Father Sean Maguire is the parish priest there, Diocese of Kilmore. Somewhere between Ballyconnell and Ballinamore. There in Cavan. So looking forward to that trip, myself and Ruth, with God's help going, and we have a little local support as well, for which we're very, very grateful. It's always wonderful to have a listener or two on hand who is willing to help us and just give us that extra little boost that we need. So very much looking forward to that visit, with God's help, all going well, tomorrow evening and Sunday morning as well. So if you're in or around the vicinity of that parish, Corlock Templeport, please do. Corlock Templeport. Please do come and say hello, and we'll be glad to greet you. And please God, next weekend to Galway Cathedral. Again, all going well. With God's help, all falling into place. We're very much looking forward to a visit to Galway town as well. And we haven't made much of an inroads into the west of Ireland just yet, a little bit here and there, but this will be a lovely visit now just to get us launched, so to speak, in that direction as well. So very much looking forward to that too. So if you're in and around Galway Cathedral, not this weekend but the coming weekend, the 11th and 12th, please do approach, please do say hi, and please do help us in our work and support us with your prayers and your promotion. And indeed, as the jingle, that's an old jingle, I hadn't heard that jingle now for a while of myself, asking for a few bob. That's always welcome, always welcome. We know this time of year that purses and wallets are put upon, assailed by umpteen of the most worthy and wonderful charities, and we all have our own favourite charities too, and many people are very good to share it around with the best of the charities that they appreciate and support. It's a wonderful quality and a great blessing that we bring to many this time of year. So we are so grateful for the kind support that we are receiving from so many of you, helping to meet our costs, which, as you know, are quite substantial. Some are up and around 35 or 40,000 a month, which is a huge outlay. But when you add everything up, we had our technical man, Stephen Foley, in yesterday. I have great time for him. He's an extraordinary genius of a man. Has his own business. He's an independent entity, but he works in and around the whole area of radio communications, and such a fount of knowledge. He's an extraordinary man, and deals with all of the big players in the media circles, and is so knowledgeable about all the aspects of it. I love it when he comes to visit. He just has a complete cascade of knowledge of anything you'd ever want to know about anything, from the smallest little plug or circuit board to the tallest mast, and then the inner workings of all of these various entities such as Comreg, the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, to RN, which is the technical side of RT as well. And then all these other radio stations that he deals with and supports. Extraordinary man. And he's just a really gifted chap. And he's been very, very helpful to us now, I must say. He's been very, very good to us over the years. And just has a huge love for all things radio, that kind of absolute enthusiast. So we're very grateful to Stephen, and he's worth every penny we pay him, absolutely, because he does go out of his way for us as well. And just speaking to you of some of the interesting developments going on in the world, the digital world. Fascinating too, and I hope the conversation isn't over on DAB, just to talk technical for a second, digital audio broadcasting. I hope that that's not game over at this stage, but certainly the commercial side of it and RT have pulled back from digital broadcasting in the Republic of Ireland, and curiously DAB is very strong in the north of Ireland. This is an interesting contrast. But one of the interesting technical aspects of that is just the outlay, and or two interesting things he said, Stephen, yesterday, was that you need almost double the number of masts and transmitters over as against FM to get DAB working with the same efficiency and to be heard and used in cars. So there's a lot of infrastructural investment needed. See, this is part of the problem. This big outlay of cash really needed to build a digital structure. Excuse me. And the other very interesting thing he said was that DAB is actually old technology. Can you believe it? You know, it's 10 or 20 or whatever years old. And while it's very strong and in use in places like Germany and Norway and the UK, other countries too, I think Belgium, are quite strong on DAB. And very often I don't think it has displaced altogether FM, but in part at least in these countries. And it presents interesting possibilities by way of broadening the whole availability of a much wider spectrum of broadcasting, which Stephen would say he sees as a good thing, certainly. And yet he says the technology is old now. So maybe it is there's some new technology around the corner, some other way of doing it. Anyway, he's he has a mind full of all these things, whether 5G or just the move towards smartphones and iPads and all these other things is making a difference. He did say too, actually, it's just all I find the man so extraordinary, fascinating. He did say that as a result of the virus and the pandemic and all these things, there has been a definite move back to traditional forms of communication and listening on the part of listeners. That radio is a kind of a fallback, old, reliable for so many people, and that it's actually been great for the radio industry, let's say, as a whole. And any radio station will tell you that. We can tell you that ourselves too. So it's brought its own interesting sort of blessings and development in the whole area. So you can see just on the technical side of things here, it's a little bit on the complicated side, and there's a lot of different factors going on and a lot of different players in the whole area of radio, and trying to work out a balance in between all of that. The wonderful thing is, though, that the digital world and the digital capacity that we now enjoy has enabled us to find our place and begin to find a little bit better into this whole area. So, wow, there's a kind of a lot to that side of the whole broadcasting element of what we do. That's apart altogether from the faith formation, isn't it extraordinary? And because I have an engineering head, it's I like to kind of see what I can learn, I suppose, or just see what's what in that area. I'm not an expert by any shape, so not even the remotest imagination. But what this man Stephen is just so knowledgeable, and he's just so helpful, and just says it like it's how he sees it and how it is. So who knows? He says, look, there's a lot of unknowns still even, and he's very embroiled in all kinds of things. And like I say, we're really one of the relatively small players in the field. But the fact that we're on Sairview television is not an insignificant thing. And so he says that, look, you're kind of pioneering things in a certain sense. So it's not really true. But in a sense, we're sort of like a little independent sort of presence, if you like, and a faith one, which again is very interesting, which is kind of pioneering in its own certain way as well. So it's a very interesting time, and has lots of challenges, and just for our day. So St. Francis Xavier was alive today, I'm pretty sure he'd be making use of this form of technology, and he would, as his reading today remind us, be lamenting those who have more learning than love. It's a great expression in his letter that we heard in the office of readings today, talking about those in the universities, they have more learning than love, that they're all about the academic pursuit, and yet where is their love for souls? So we hear this means of communication, again, it's an instrument. It wouldn't be the be-all and the end-all. It's very hard to replace the personal approach and the personal presence, say, in a parish community where you're meeting people in person and ministering to them and seeking to, again, bring them God's word, bring them healing, bring them consolation and light. Fellowship and friendship, all of those things at the personal level, that's irreplaceable. There's simply no substitute for that. So the radio, such as it is, and the camera here, such as it is it's approximation to trying to communicate to, and it's very effective, and it works in its own way. And my hope, as always, as I explain, and I always like to say to priests when we visit in parishes, look, we're just an instrument, we're here at your service, and like St. Francis Xavier, there's a rich harvest of souls to be reached. And if this can help you in that ministry, if this can be a way of reaching into the homes that you would love to visit and that you would love to connect with, then please use us and let us support you in your work. And not only that, if we can support you in your prayer life and your own personal spiritual journey. In Ballinamore, of course, up the road from where we're going, now at the weekend, Monsignor Johnny Cusack has been with us for a long time since, and is a lovely voice and a lovely presence on Radio Maria, and a sign of, in a certain way, of, again, how effective and supportive I would suggest Radio Maria can be to the priests who are on the mission, like St. Francis Xavier, and to see how that can bring just a little bit of energy, a bit of enthusiasm, a bit of consolation maybe, to priests who are so hard-pressed nowadays and have just this enormous burden and task upon them. And many of them finding it, I think, quite difficult in the circumstances to meet their obligations with restrictions, with fears and anxieties, with the falling away of those who have lost a little bit of confidence or maybe still a bit fearful of coming back to church. It takes its toll. It takes its toll on our priests. They wonder, what's the way forward? How am I to continue? How can I... My ministry seems to have taken a hit. So again, if we can step into that space on their behalf, which this is really my key thing always, that you, as our dear listeners and friends, without you this simply isn't possible, and that your help, your support and everything is means that we can go now to parishes such as Corlack Templeport, Galway Cathedral, and we can offer and say, look, here we have a service that is at your disposal and can be a great instrument to help you in your work of reaching souls, because we're on air 24/7. A webcam in a parish church is wonderful. It has its limits because it spans a certain period. But if we can be that gentle voice again of continuing prayer with your parishioners, who we most certainly encourage to affiliate themselves to their parish, to support their parish community, to be that leaven in the community, to be energized and enthusiastic about the faith locally, what a great help that will be, a kindly word. And to show that support. And I wonder whether the approach might be not to give the glory and all the praise, let's say, to Radio Maria, for fear that the priest himself might say, sure, listen, off you go, so that you go listen to the radio, and I'm obviously not needed. That I would hope that would not be the case. Rather, that we would be seen just simply as a little help to you on the journey, to bring you closer, let's say, to your parish priest, to bring you into your parish community all the more fervently. That we would not be seen to be an obstacle, or somehow what would it be, like an alternative, that I one is for Paul, one is for Apollos. You know, that idea that all the favour goes in one direction. I would hope the opposite would be the case, that our work and our ministry here would feed into the life of the church, and just give you a sense of the wonderful mission of the church and all the many people of good faith and goodwill. You're not alone. And again, as I say, energize you into the life of your parish all the more. That would be my hope, that we're not trying to take away from the parish community or take away from the church. That would absolutely be the last thing I would wish to do. It would be the very opposite, I would hope, would be the case. So I hope that helps to understand just the thinking, that we are very much like Our Lady. We're in the service of the Lord. So she didn't get in the way of the apostles. She certainly didn't block the path or draw all the attention to herself away from those whom the Lord was ministering. That would be the same idea, if you can imagine it in that way, that she was there playing her part and serving as the handmaid of the Lord, and so many of the other wonderful saintly women who were faithful to Christ right to the cross. The apostles were the ones who let him down. But that would be our role, I would hope, again, that I would envisage for Radio Maria, that of service, and again, getting out of the way, or as it were, agenda on their meeting. We have no idea, really. It's a huge folder full of stuff every time they gather together. So the autumn meeting they had was held in person back in the autumn time, but this week's meeting has been the 6th meeting that they've held by, and to see the way forward, to come to journey together, if you like. That's what synod means, journeying together going forward. They're also, I see I got a letter from my own bishop as well, in relation to keeping up to date on safeguarding in the church, especially for our children and vulnerable adults too. The Trócaire Christmas Gifts of Love was a topic as well. That's the Archbishop's preferred charity there. Various appointments and things that come into play, and I'm sure the changed situation in Galway and Galway, Kilmacduagh, Kilfenora and Clonfert, those two dioceses coming together. That's an interesting development. I'm sure they have to figure out and discuss as well. So very good. So the Advent journey has begun. The announcement says here from catholicbishops.ie, a time of patient waiting and joyful hope, and looking forward to the celebration of Christmas with quiet expectation, and turning our hearts to the Lord with confidence and trust. So the bishops again attending themselves to all of the needs there of the church and the situation in Ireland. Oh, can you imagine the weight and the burdens that they have to bear and contend with in their own various dioceses as well, of course, in the country. So very good. It's good to see that news. If you want to find out a bit more about that and read a bit more about that in detail, catholicbishops.ie is the website there for the Bishops' Conference. That's where we draw our information from as well. So again, the synodal pathway has been launched by each of the bishops in their own diocese, and is being based on prayer and conversation and discussion about faith. So they've sought to give a little update. And how long is this now? Let's share a little bit of this with you. We're thankful, they say, for the continuing commitment of so many in our parishes to ensuring that our churches remain safe places where people can gather in confidence to worship. So the bishops are very grateful, and it's good to hear that for all the marvellous work that's going on in parishes. It's important, they say, that we remain vigilant and conscious of the threat still posed by the virus and any new variants that may emerge, and continue to take steps that will protect our health and the health of others too. So they're recommending indeed face coverings should continue to be worn at all gatherings in our churches and parish buildings, high standards of hygiene and ventilation in our churches, and allowing space between ourselves and others are some of the essential ways which we can contribute to the health of our parish communities. So these are all the guidelines that we have been seeking to observe, of course, from the outset. So around Christmas time, when people come to churches in large numbers, careful planning will be needed in our parishes, and sensible precautions should be put in place in line with public health guidance. So again, it's just a very practical, this is some of the practicals. So like I say, like with the radio, there's a lot of practical things to get in place, and this is the very same. The coming of Christ that we celebrate at Christmas brought light into a darkened world, a light that darkness could not overpower. In the dark days of the pandemic, we can be bearers of that light. Bring it into the lives of those who may be living in the shadow of sickness, poverty, homelessness, or isolation. Again, this is a great gesture and act of charity that should accompany our Advent journey, and always really as people of faith. We best express our thankfulness through personal thoughtfulness and kindness. Again, remember I was saying really that it is like the personal touch makes so much of the difference, so much. And support then given to organisations which do so much to help those in need. Again, this is really where our financial support comes into its own. We urge people to respond generously to the Christmas appeals of Trócaire, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, Cross Care, and other charities which bring hope into the lives of many people. So indeed, I would hope Radio Maria would be there on your list as well. It is definitely our endeavour to bring hope into the lives of people as well. So the Council of Bishops asks that all Catholics continue to advocate for the availability of ethically developed vaccines, and indeed efficacious vaccines too would be a good word to use there as well, that they do prove their worth and their capacity and their ability to help stem things. So a bit like the flu vaccine again has proved its worth over time too. So there's still indeed discussion in relation to the COVID vaccine, and some who would have reservations, and perhaps rightly so. So that's a conversation again that has to unfold, and the efficacy of the approach indeed is worthy of ongoing conversation there. And so they've ethically developed vaccines, what the bishops say, and efficacious again is the word I would add as well too. And that's not a bad thing. That's again for all our well-being and all our health. In that way, they bear witness that biomedical research should always be conducted in a manner which is consistent with respect for life and for human dignity. So amen to that, because again, if there are adverse effects or influences, well, these need to be reported and need to be analysed and brought to the conversation, and to rightly question and again, it's not about starting campaigns or revolutions or any of these things, but let them be brought forward and let them be opened up, and let everything that's conducted the way it's worded here consistent with respect for life and for human dignity. So there we are. And this line here, we ask that departments of health, north and south, would actively promote the development, sourcing and supply of vaccines which do not have a historical link with abortion. Again, amen to that. It is very clear, really, there from the bishops. Anyone who, for reasons of conscience, chooses not to be vaccinated must nevertheless do their utmost to avoid by other means and by appropriate behaviour becoming vehicles for the transmission of infection. And that's fair too. That's fair too. That there are some people who reasonably, and for many different reasons actually, choose not to be vaccinated. Yes, if that's the case, then I have a responsibility to do all I can to avoid infection or transmission to others. And that seems very appropriate. And in fact, in a way that's true of everybody, even the vaccinated, because as we understand, those who are vaccinated can also become transmitters of the virus. So it behoves us all, really. There's no difference there. So that's good. They're discussing that and they're putting it forward for us for our consideration like that too. So now, very good, and there's urging governments to support efforts to provide, again, health care and, again, ethical vaccines and effective vaccines for those in the poor, the developing world. So, you see, unless everybody has access to that level of health care, then how many will be vulnerable? So that's a very fair statement as well. So they also wish, of course, to thank and reiterate their gratitude, naturally, to all those working in the front line, in hospitals, nursing homes, and as carers. Wonderful, wonderful work continuing with all of the safeguarding. Again, we're very mindful and conscious of the safeguarding that's needed. So they have contributed significantly to the health and safety of so many and have given us all cause for hope. So they're dwelling on that theme of hope there, and it's lovely to see that. So, again, it's difficult, difficult topic perhaps at times, and fraught in its own way with again, questions and elements to be addressed. But that's very helpful indeed. So, the availability of ethically developed and efficacious indeed treatments, because the other aspect actually to that is the. And I'm not sure, again, maybe the bishops spoke of it themselves, but is the protocols that are there for the treatment of those who contract the virus by way of supplement and treatment, so vitamin D and vitamin C, you hear these things, and zinc, and the other tried and tested elements as well too that help to treat and help people to recover from it, so that there are far less deaths and less hospitalizations. So there is that side of it as well to consider. So anyway, we've leave all that to the experts, and we certainly support all and seek to defend all in their human dignity, and that we behave as much as believe with a consistent respect for life and human dignity in all of these things. So we bring it back, and this is what I like to say, these very sort of difficult questions back to the light of the gospel, so that we can understand what the broader principle is, and that is the well-being and safety in the light of the dignity of the human person with regard to all of these things. So I sort of didn't set out intending that, just came up from the bishops, the notes from the bishops' conference. If you want to read a bit more about that, again, I just encourage you back to the Catholic Bishops' website. And it's important that we journey with and understand the minds of our bishops and the teaching that's coming forth from there, and that we seek to adhere to it and follow it, again, as our leaders in faith. There are things that we mightn't always agree with, I don't know, one way or the other. You can still, have a viewpoint. There's no difficulty there. But that we see indeed what the endeavour is, and the broader sense of what's at work here. So very good. Difficult enough and fraught, as I say, at times, some of these debates. But important that we work them through with a certain calmness, I suppose, but also to seek the truth in all these things and bring them to the light of truth. So now again, apologies for the late start today. I just, again, didn't get to the microphones as soon as I would like to have, and attend indeed all of our requests there. So now, very good, nice little picture there, the Advent scene in Our Lady, Church of Our Lady and St. David in Naas. That's probably coming from our good friend Anthony there as well. We had a piece of music lined up, but I said I'd keep chatting anyway. Our Facebook froze up on us there, but hopefully it's unfrozen now again, and you're listening and watching at the same time too. No, very good. May God bless you all, and thanks indeed for being part of Radio Maria here. Do please continue to share with us and interact with us, and connect in with us as well. Just for this afternoon, we'll see our usual lineup of programs as well. The live lunchtime rosary after your say will be with Ollie Clark and friends there as well. I see Terry and Peter, please God, are coming on for the lunchtime rosary. And Ollie, of course, with his lovely music show at 1 o'clock will accompany you there over the lunchtime period. And then onwards into the afternoon, the Stations of the Cross at 3 o'clock, and the Catholic Heritage Hour with Thomas Murphy and the Catholic Heritage Association, offering us indeed some insights into the great rich depths of the history and heritage of our Catholic faith, and the lovely treasury of the Church there that has is essential to understanding our faith. So thanks to Thomas presenting that show for us there on Fridays as well. And as we go further through the afternoon, Lectio Divina, looking to the second Sunday of Advent, and a little meditation on the Gospel there with Tara and Eva here in our studio at 4:30. Evening prayer and news, of course, and the live evening rosary continuing onwards then afterwards. Total Beauty, Tara's lovely music show, will accompany you then at 6:10. So now Father John is hoping to get started. It seems like it might not be till the new year, the way things are going. His new show, maybe they have a little bit of preparation to do, or maybe actually, you know what I think it is that they might actually be pre-recording that show, because I think with 2 priests on it, or there are 3 priests, a Friday night is going to be problematic. To guarantee they'll be free is going to be difficult for them to achieve. So I think the plan with that show, in terms of the history and the controversies in the Church, may have to be a pre-recorded show. I think that's where the little stumbling block is there. But please God, that'll start again soon as well. The Sodality of Our Lady Radio Hour will be at 8 o'clock, of course, this evening too, followed by the Rosary for Ireland with Human Life International this evening as well. Oh, it's actually the first Friday today as well. I just forgotten there about the Pioneer show too. We must get in touch with Father Robert and just make sure that please God will go ahead too. Anyway, God bless you all. Thanks indeed for being with me here today on our Chatechesis show. Always nice to have your company. And again, please do keep in touch with us by text and phone, by email and by letter as well. Just approaching 12 o'clock, so we'll pause here and we'll allow our Angelus bells to toll, and we'll return with our Angelus and our midday prayer.